Go. Hello, Shailesh sir. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Ravi?
I'm
Good,
also
good.
good, and thank you so much for joining today. So
Oh, it's
today we are here, to talk about what is going on in terms of hide and seek game,
yeah.
this OCR cards and the mortgage rates. So I want to hear, what exactly the expectation the audience should have today.
Yeah, no, it's good topic that you have chosen at the end of the year. And I think this is where we all are heading towards the start of the year next year with a positive mindset. And but we had to end up a positive mindset, but it didn't quite well go the way it's supposed to be because you made this topic OCR cuts. And people generally, common sense tells us cuts means reduction. Reduction means more power to save, more power to spend. And are we at the verge of a Christmas time? Are we going to spend with this OCR cut, or are we going to end up spending, not saving, but holding? And that creates a problem. Another spending, receiving, but then holding creates a lot of issues, right? So
Right.
you have chosen a good topic at a good time, and at a time where really people are really have a mixed feelings and confused feelings, because one, I think many people they don't understand the economics or the numbers or the finance, how it works and why it works this way. And when a normal common sense, if you ask them, oh, cut means reduction. So if reduction, then is that reduction passed on to me? Or is it just on paper? Is it reduction for me? Or is it reduction for only some? Or is it reduction to confuse? And this is the whole topic that we are going to discuss today, Ravi. You have chosen the right topic. I want to give my little 2 cents on it at the start with this view that first of all, this OCR cuts we have seen 7 times, 6 times in the last 1 year, and every year we have been seeing cuts, because initially we saw increase after COVID, and then now we started sliding down towards cuts. But the real question is the Reserve Bank of New Zealand, the Governor of New Zealand, and the Parliament or the government of the day, whoever it is. They are supposed to work in conjunction for the development, for the nations, for the betterment of the people of the country. This is where the Reserve Bank has an important responsibility and a role, and so has the government to work with them. But have we seen this time at this last thing that has cut? Why I'm saying this is because we have seen a reversal, a completely reversal. A cut is not a cut, a cut is an increase for the banks. But a cut is only cut for the paper for the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. It's a cut which they have approved it, but they have not passed on to the consumers. And they have allowed, on that same note, they have allowed the banks to increase by point 0.3, which is mind boggling because 0.25 cut and point
Mhm.
0.3 increase. Now that leaves, what it leaves is that, are we really doing justice to maximum people who are in that situation of mortgage rights? Or are we only benefiting some and we are holding some? So it's a mixed feeling, Ravi. So I
Okay.
want to just start with that there is a responsibility of government and the Reserve Bank. Government
Mhm.
of the day and the Reserve Bank should work together closely on this. But I
Right.
can't see that has happened this time around.
Okay. I hear that, but I
Hmm.
have a counter, argument on that. You know,
Yeah.
so what I'm saying is, see, the OCR influences interest rate, but it's not a direct throttle that banks, simply should match it and retail mortgage pricing, because the
Yes.
Reserve Bank itself says that the OCR is a design to
Yeah.
influence the bank lending and deposit rates over time, but
Hmm.
banks set mortgage pricing based on the multiple factors including expectation of future rates, and
Yep.
and so what do you have to say about it, because that is something it clearly says, right?
100%, but that's the fundamental question people have ignored and missed is who
Right.
is paying this money? Who is
Mhm.
accumulating this money? The banks. Who is allowing the banks to make profits? The consumers or the government or the Reserve Bank is creating policy that they can make profit, or they are
Mhm.
creating a policy that actually those profits they can earn, but some of the profit should be passed on to the consumers. So what I am saying here is like,
Mhm.
the fundamental question of whoever it is, whatever the guidelines of the Reserve Bank is, whatever the wholesale margins are, whatever the rates that they prefix to create profits for the banks. That's why they preset certain things, prefix certain things, so that they can make a profit of for a certain period of time, which is fine. Wholesale rates are fixed, then they keep changing as per the dynamics and as per the economy of the country. But the basic fundamental question is, Ravi, is like, are we allowing, are these policies are allowing the banks and misleading the consumers that there is a rate cut for the good feel for the consumers, but
Mhm.
it passed on to the banks to make more money? Can you see my point of view in that regard,
Yeah,
Ravi?
I'm getting it. But my argument point was, which what I said, initially, and I'm just making argument point now. The
Yep.
OCR is a tool to influence market rates, but it does not forces banks to instantaneously cut the market rates one for one, right? Use
Hmm.
this for, yeah. So what do you have to say on that argument?
Yeah, the traditionally and the history and the trend and
Mm-hmm.
the policies, when a rate is cut, the consumers
Right.
have got a good feeling that we
Mm-hmm.
will get hope of,
Mm-hmm.
we will get the benefits.
Right.
But when the benefits don't come to them, it is not responsibility of, I understand and I hear you, that OCR cut doesn't have to follow to pass on to the consumers. But then we are creating a hope, false hope, to the people.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's where my argument is. If you want to make profits, make it openly, transparently. Don't be, that's why when you said hide and seek, this is a game of hide and seek. You show something, you do something. So if you want to do something, show it that you are going to do this way. Don't
Mm-hmm.
show wrong. Don't say I'm cutting, but I'm not giving you. So then say also at the same time, I'm cutting, but I'm not giving you. I will keep it, but I will cut it, but I will not give you. So if that's the hope, unnecessary
Mm-hmm.
hope that consumers gain. So in September it was reduced, it passed on. In November they were expecting, so they were waiting. Many people were waiting in November. They did not change in September because they knew new rate is going to go down. So
Mm-hmm.
otherwise they lost 2 months. They would have fixed it
Right.
if had they known that nothing is going to change in spite of low cuts, they would have fixed
Mm-hmm.
it at that time and people would have got the benefit, right? So
Right.
this is hide and seek, this is transparency I'm talking about. There is lack of transparency. And in financial market, we understand they play, speculations are there, and then people,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a gamble, it's like a gamble. We are having a
Right.
gamble of rates, and we don't know whether we will get that or not. So it's like a gamble. So we don't want that gamble for most of the consumers to be put into that situation, if I may say that way, that kind of thing. So I think that there has to be more transparency in the future, if really
Mm-hmm.
the nation, if really the government wants to say that, yeah, we will see they campaigned, the current government campaigned that, yeah, we will bring down the rates down, we will bring down the inflation down, we will bring down the cost of living. So this is
Mm-hmm.
hope, and based on this hope, the consumers thrive. The nation is built on
Mm-hmm.
hope. But if that hope is doesn't come into reality, that's why we have in our accounting sense, if I give you, one is the budget and one is actual versus budget, when the actuals come in. So
Mm-hmm.
actual versus budget is the real thing that you understand at that time, that I had budgeted, but my actual was totally different or was near to the budgeting, then I am happy. If it is not nearing to the budget, if it is totally opposite, then my budget was totally wrong, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Which means which means I have not been able to now move forward positively. It has to be redone once again, that kind of thing. So this is what I feel, that the interest rates are really
Mm-hmm.
critical. Particularly New Zealand is a country where we are almost in debts, right? And the debt is
Mm-hmm.
very highest. We have a high debt in this country. Almost we are, and that debt is gone to the overseas bank majorly, largely.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have that kind of scenario where most of the overseas banks are actually thriving on Kiwis, thriving on New Zealand consumers, then
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a real challenge for the government of the day. Because if something goes wrong or something natural calamities happen like COVID and all, we are
Mm-hmm.
completely gone out of the things, because we don't have the control, we don't have the protection, we don't have the security, we don't have the safety. And then they have to go and do the bailout, which is again consumers money, which is again our Kiwis money. So I feel that's a very important ingredient of this OCR that has happened, is really have taken a big mindset. Big hope has been shattered in my world. The hope for 2 months,
Mm-hmm.
we were under that impression that the cut will be there and we will get a further cut from 4.49. It might go to 4.2 or 4.3, but
Mm-hmm.
instead, zero point 0.3 has increased, which means we are heading into New Year with the mindset that it is going to further increase. That's what it is. That's what it
Right.
indicates.
But no, no. Thank you so much for those points. But again, I'm asking. See, you have been living in this country for almost, this is the third
Yeah,
decade, I believe. So
yeah.
you must have already seen this. So this is something not being done, for the first time. I believe.
No,
See, I'm not blaming any particular government. Telling that the government before this must have also done. It must be this act was done before as well. So did we oppose at that time? If yes, then what was the result? And if no, then why?
no, you're right. Because what has happened, see, we saw 2008, the biggest recession happened.
Hmm.
But if you look at, if you, in my experience, there was a time when banks' interest rates was not even what it is. It was twice, like
Right.
16% and 14%, that sort of thing I have seen. But
Hmm.
then people still had the capacity and the capability of moving forward rather
Hmm.
than backwards, and they were not stuck and they didn't have that pinch. what
Right.
what has happened now, cost of living and all your other cost, inflation, everything has gone up. And when
Hmm.
that goes up and interest rate also goes up, that means there is a less chance of more moving forward, but stuck or go backwards or sell. That's what I've seen. See, the business, today's businesses or business community or individuals, in those
Hmm.
days, they were also having their bank's security as their house, as the mortgage, right?
Right.
But today, that has become a big unaffordable, and people are selling their businesses or liquidating their businesses or just can't afford because they cannot pay the mortgage, because
Hmm.
the business is down, they don't have income. Where are they going to, how are they going to pay the mortgage? That's why in COVID the interest rates were dropped, so that
Hmm.
there was no income and people had opportunity to pay off and sustain, basically. Now these today's situation is such that they have were hoping that it was reduced further to sustain and to
Hmm.
survive, but it hasn't. We knew that it will take another year, because most of the 40-50% still have not renewed their mortgages what they
Hmm.
had. So they are not really getting the benefit of even these low rates. They are not getting the benefit because they have not renewed it, basically.
Hmm.
Their fixed terms have not yet come for renewal. So what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing in the market, and for my experience, is that people are literally struggling because they are not getting that benefit. Now recession happens, the lower rate happens, or the increase of happens, but the idea is how do we make easy affordable for day to day survival of the business and
Mm-hmm.
survival of the people. That again depends on the policies that the government puts, the employment that the government creates, and all that things combined, it helps.
Mm-hmm.
But now what we are saying, we are at the lowest, highest unemployment rate. We are at very cost of living, still not come to that level where we wanted. The inflation is expecting lower, but it needs to further. They are saying it will come down, but people are stuck in the middle because their
Mm-hmm.
interest rate, their affordability is stuck because there is no income. It's not because the rates are high. At the same time, you don't have affordable of income. That
Mm-hmm.
probably there's no ease of income. So, when you said that, okay, in this past also there were situations like that, there were
Mm-hmm.
recessions, there were natural disasters, all those kind of things have happened over a period of
You're
time.
right.
But people never felt the pinch the way they are feeling now, because the income and because the affordability has really completely opposite to what it was at that time. So I feel that this is what is the responsibility of the government of the day and also the Reserve Bank of Governor, who needs to be mindful and not work around the policies for the people as a
Mm-hmm.
whole, rather than for the banks or rather than for the corporates that only cater for them, because there are affordable and non-affordable. And if you look at the equation of New Zealand,
Mm-hmm.
there are 80-90% are SMEs, small entrepreneurs. What is their affordability? And 5 to 10%, what is their affordability? So who are you making a difference by not giving the banking rates or not reducing the bank rates? Who are you giving the benefits? Only to those people who have already been in that situation, have created a capital for themselves. But that is only 5 to 10%. But what about the 80-90%, which are actually feeding the government, which are actually feeding the banks basically? And
Right.
that is what the point was taken out in during COVID, that banks made 1 point, all major banks created a huge profit during COVID. So just imagine, a common sense tells me, when you have a COVID like situation,
Mm-hmm.
we expect bare minimum is to corporates and everyone to work together so that nobody has got inequality of that level. Ultimately, banks are being paid by the consumers. Banks make money by consumers only. But
Mm-hmm.
banks making too much money through consumers and not giving benefits to consumers is a big issue in this country at the moment. And I think that needs to be taken into account very soon. Otherwise, I always say, we have seen companies bankrupted. We see
Mm-hmm.
individuals bankrupted. Why? Because they don't have income, they cannot afford. That's why they get bankrupted. So, have you ever seen that, like, even now, many countries, they also go into that situation as a country, bankruptcy. So,
Right.
bankruptcy country also is a reality. But to not to happen that, steps needs to be taken faster, and not just allow the corporates or the banks to just make profits and not pass on to the consumers. We will have a situation otherwise, that it will be too late or too little and too late, that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. We don't want that situation. So I am just hoping that the interest rates and all of that, what we are saying, is should be setting or resetting the whole thing. But I
Mm-hmm.
don't see that happening, because most of the Kiwis that we saw are going
Mm-hmm.
across the beach. Why? And then we are creating more debts here, because there are many people who have not, you are going to other countries, but
Mm-hmm.
the debts are still in this country. Their debts are still in this country. So what happens with that is
Mm-hmm.
we create more debts for our country, and the individual, they just go to other country for affordability point of view, and then we lose everything. We lose the expertise, we lose the experience, we lose the knowledge, we lose everything. And then we become like a very mediocre kind of a country where people only come here and not make money but just to come here and live. And I think that scenario is very dangerous to get in. And I personally feel that out of 5 million population that we have here, we most of the people who have got the loans or the mortgages, I mean, we
Hmm.
have to look after them as initially, to make sure that they don't create more debts for the country, basically. And I think this is where we are heading. This is first time I am seeing for the first time, Ravi, that where to your question is OCR is cut and the bank rates have increased. I haven't seen in my last 25 years where I can tell that yes, we don't have to see the same person. See, they have not changed it. I've seen that OCR has cut, but they have
Hmm.
not changed anything, or OCR has not changed. We have seen that scenario as well.
Right.
But cutting and increasing, this is
Hmm.
something which is very dilemma for me,
Yeah.
because the fixed rates are increased, but the floating rates are decreased by a small margin, which I can
Okay.
see. The floating rates is variable, which they can make money anytime, but fixed is something where they make huge profits because they have
Hmm.
a fixed rate and the
Right.
fixed preset, so they know guaranteed income for a particular period. And that's exactly what happened during COVID as well, that people
Mm.
have no option but to stick with that bank, and whatever they offered they had to go. And that's why we saw huge surge in profits with the banks, because
You're right.
people were not moving from one bank to another bank. And now our finance minister, or now the government is saying that there is a more competition to move because the rates have increased. Well,
Mm.
if the rates have increased, one, we are stuck. We are already stuck with one bank.
Hmm.
And there are lots of circumstances that other banks will not allow you to come to them because you have a certain scenario, certain
Right.
circumstances. Your income affordability has not increased. So why would other bank will give to you when your income has not increased? If your income is increased, then you can have a competition and then you can shop around. If you don't have an income affordability, with the
Mm.
same income, why would other banks entertain? They are at the moment they are working on the same principle, that if you have
Right.
affordability of income, we will give you loan. If you don't
Mm.
have affordability, you are remain. It is better to remain with the same bank. That's the reality. And
Right.
so, saying that there is a competition, saying that you can shop around doesn't really go well with my
Right.
philosophy in that regard.
Right, right. No, no. See, if you are saying that, I'm sure you must be smelling something. But before
Yeah.
we continue our discussion argument further, to the audience who are watching, just let me tell you that this discussion is happening from the Wefit News and NJ World News. And thank you for Shailesh sir for uh, getting ready for this argument, because we are doing this for the community to explain
Yeah.
that what is the game happening behind. And what do you think, Shalit sir? Why nobody, Prime Media is talking about it?
Very good question. It's a very good question. Again, this is where the status quo and the traditions flow. In
Hmm.
New Zealand, what I have seen is most of the time, the tradition and the status quo set by previous finance ministers, they just follow that guidelines. Okay. There are no innovative way or embracing the creative way or embracing the new ways of
Hmm.
reformation or
Right.
policy putting into place. We didn't see much happening on that front. So
Hmm.
when people, another again, the people, they only look at an angle from a political party point of view
Hmm.
rather than what is actually making a difference to me
Hmm.
and to the community. So when to communities don't understand that we have to raise certain questions and not just keep quiet because we don't know. Even if it's a stupid, you need to ask this question. I personally
Hmm.
feel when it comes to
Okay.
finance, definitely, definitely you need to ask that question. See, you go to professionals, whether it's accountant, mortgage brokers. Why do you go? Because you don't know. So when you don't know, you go and then you follow them, right? Same thing, you need to ask the question to the government that why? Why are we not getting these benefits? Why?
Mhm.
What should we, where should we go? What should we do? And this is where if you don't raise the status quo things, you don't have any problem. Let's do what we are doing because there is no opposition to these type of questions, right? And that is something that we are doing today with you, Ravi. Hats off to you because it's something that literally goes to the people to understand and make them aware that you have the
Mhm.
right to ask questions. You do have the democratic rule or policy that
Okay.
we can, even if it looks like stupid, you need to ask this question, basically. So,
Right. Right. So while we are continuing our discussion, we should not forget our sponsors. So today's sponsor, let me play one small video. So
oh,
because
yes.
of them, it was possible for us to continue this discussion and do this. So this is one of our you know
All right.
sponsor. Yeah, just give me a minute. I will have to stop screen and go here and video one. Okay, just give me a minute. Share screen. Okay. Apologies for the delay.
That's all right.
Okay. So while I am looking for the information, because the team
Yeah.
is not here today, so I will just announce the first sponsors which we had for the today's video is C Gold Solution Limited, and C Gold Solution Limited is basically a business advisory and tax accounting consultancy. So if anybody has any help related to their business advisory and tax accounting consultant, please feel free to get in touch with the C Gold Solution Limited. And thank you so much, C Gold Solution Limited, for this. Yeah, for this particular section. Now,
Yeah.
moving on, to the next section, I wanted to understand from you if you can try to answer it and simplify it for me. That
Hmm.
see, mortgage rates already begin falling before the rates, the latest OCR cuts. That you will agree, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
my argument is that mortgage pricing reflects where the market think the OCR will be over the loan term, not
Mm,
just where it is today,
mm,
right? And this is
mhm.
especially true for the fixed rate loan over 1 or 2 or 5 years.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, what do you have to say about it? I mean, again, I'm see from my point of view, because since I'm playing devil's advocate, I see
Yeah.
that this is something which is normal.
Again, this is something that when you look at when people blame
Hmm.
why New Zealand produces, say, I'll give you an example of exports and
Okay.
imports, and
Yes.
then you
Yes.
relate to that. So if we manufacture something in
Hmm.
Frontera, say for example, we manufacture and then we export, right? Now our local price, we always give an excuse saying that, oh, international market price is this, and that's why our price is high. Now,
Hmm.
as a normal common sense, one would argue, if I am manufacturing in my country, why my consumers are getting at a higher price?
Hmm.
Why they are overseas countries, because we are exporting, they get a lower price. So our products for our country, manufactured in our country, gets higher, and then
Correct.
we blame this as a international pricing. We blame
Hmm.
that excuse, we always play that card, even for
Right.
fuel. Why
Hmm.
fuel is high? Because international market determines the fuel prices. Now if you look at the banking, exactly it is like this. Who is this international monetary policy? They're the ones sitting in America,
Hmm.
deciding deciding the world's uh, rates, margin, wholesale rates, or fixed rates, and all of that, right? They decide because most of the major banks are them who are
Hmm.
lenders,
Hmm.
to the world. Now when they are lenders to the world, they are governed by international monetary policy. So they have to go as per the guidelines of that. But it is so ironic that their country gets benefit, but world doesn't get the benefit of those rates. And it
Okay.
is very interesting because when they decide the mortgage rates, if you look at in America, they have a fixed rate for the
Hmm.
30 years. They don't have a variable like us,
Right.
whereas all other countries have got a variable. So who is giving all our hard money overseas is
Hmm.
actually has got no guarantee idea of how much money they pay overall. When there is a fluctuating variable, a period of 30 years, they pay huge interest,
Hmm.
huge. And I'll come to this because on purpose, because recent just information that I had was that almost 10 billion we pay, New Zealand pay annually as 10 billion as interest only.
Mm.
Now, interest only, yes, we are having highest mortgage rates, whatever you call it, but these out of this 10 billion, 9 billion, I would say,
Hmm.
goes to the overseas bank. So overseas bank means Australian banks or other banks, right? And New Zealand is governed by Australian banks mainly. So they earn almost majority, almost like 80, 90% they own actually. They get the benefit. So when you look at that aspect of it, you know, the wholesale rates that we they say that we have this wholesale rate already predetermined before the OCR came in. They have
Hmm.
already designed or they already decided that the wholesale margin is going to go up. So let's go up. I mean,
Right.
what sort of then transparency, what sort of information is based on that is accurate or that can be helpful to the consumers? It is helpful for those people who are sitting in the top bracket. They know this information first, wholesale rates, but
Hmm.
the consumers don't know the wholesale rates until it is declared. But prior to that, most of the overall, a few of those overall people or the corporates, they know, the banks know, but the banks don't pass on promptly. And that's
Right.
probably why it is, that probably it hurts the consumer. So I think again here, there is a lack of responsibility and lack of transparency that
Hmm.
has created this vacuum, a gap, a communication gap, a simple communication gap. If
Hmm.
I am fixing today for New Zealand a wholesale rate or a wholesale margin, then isn't it my responsibility to pass on immediately or to inform immediately to the consumers? Or
Hmm.
do I hold it like a land banking? I hold it, I look at the market, I see the movement of the market, and then I release it in the market. That is exactly called what I say is the, when they say speculation, this
Hmm.
is speculation. And speculation exactly what when the land banking happens in New Zealand or the property market, or when they do a speculation of the buying and selling of the properties. This is exactly what it is, that we don't know what the rate is going to be and who
Right.
is going to buy at this rate and that rate. So again, these wholesale rates that was declared, that was that was smelled before,
Hmm.
but it was not passed on. And then they gave the excuse that, oh, they had already predicted that the wholesale rate is going to go up, so that's why we had to take it up. No. Then what was the reason of prefixing the rates? And what
Hmm.
was the reason 2 months back you said that there will be a cut? If you had known that there was a cut, how all of a sudden after the 2 months at the last minute that you give excuse and reverse and you make a U-turn? I think this is irresponsible management of finance in my world.
Okay.
I i call it mismanagement. That's
Yeah,
what
but on the wholesale point which you were just talking about, I have one counter argument on that. Okay, see,
yeah.
wholesale rate have recently risen even as OCR cuts were expected, which I agree. But
Hmm.
market data shows that the swap rates, which underpin the longer term funding cost, etc.,
Yeah.
moved higher because the traders see a chance of future OCR rises,
Mm,
which
mm.
puts upward pressure on mortgage rates, even
Correct.
when the official rates have just been cut.
Mm, mm.
So the argument point here is the mortgage rates are tied up to the wholesale funding and swap rates. If those
Correct.
move up because the market price in future rates increases, then mortgage rates don't follow the OCR lower.
Yeah, and this is what it is. What we call the title today is hide and seek, because
Okay.
what happens is we are not understanding that are we really contributing towards the profit making through this process, or
Mm-hmm.
are we contributing towards benefits to the consumers? And that is what is the game, Ravi.
Mm-hmm.
That I
Right.
call it, and we called it today. Is it's a hide and seek because it's a
Mm-hmm.
smoke and mirrors. We don't know
Right.
why
Right.
they are doing or why they are declaring such thing, why it is attached to this aspect, that aspect, why these rates are attached to certain aspects. Is it to
Mm-hmm.
maximize the profits, is it to earn more, or is it to reduce
Mm-hmm.
pressure for the people? And this is where I always say that, once again I stress this point, that the Reserve Bank of Governor has a moral responsibility, ethical responsibility,
Right.
ethical financing. We call it ethical financing, which we don't see in today's world.
Mm-hmm.
But in good old days, there used to be moral and ethical financing and refinancing and borrowings and lending, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where we have lost that. We have lost that touch. Today,
Right.
it is nothing about ethical or moral. Today, it is about maximizing the profits.
Mm-hmm.
How maximize I can make, how I can maximize the profit margins. The margins are there, but how I can maximize it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than saying that, hey, I have made the profit, but hey, look, I made $10, but here it is $1 for you. But I
Right.
would not say, I would say, oh, I've made $10. Now I want to see what is the next opportunity to increase my 11 to $11. Where
Mm-hmm.
is the room that I can squeeze the consumers? This is the mindset has become, Ravi. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is where we have to draw the attention to the people, that
Right.
when you are fixing the mortgage rates, you got to be very, very curious. You got to be very, very wise about asking every sort of questions, that
Mm-hmm.
whether you are benefiting or whether you are contributing towards their profit margins. And that's a $1 million question which everybody should have in their mind when they fix or when they refix, or even
Mm-hmm.
when they go to floating, or when they choose the model of mortgage. See, banks are giving a lot of options for you
Mm-hmm.
to fix and refix, and revolving credit and all sorts of tools are there. But
Right.
what is best tool for you based on
Mm-hmm.
your affordability, based on your incomes, and based on your creation of on your future plans, on your 6 months plans or 1 year plan. So you should go as per your actual affordability in the near, short term and long term. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
when they say 2 to 5 years, they have already now locked in. Now you can't escape. They have
Right.
locked in everyone from 2 to 5 years. The interest rates are going to go up 5%. It will touch
Mm-hmm.
next year and may go even beyond five.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were expecting, that we will return to the COVID days where it was 2% and 3%, it's not anymore. It's not going to go back to that reality. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually getting twice double in the next year. And that
Right.
is a challenge for every single consumer, because we are the contributors, we are the payers to these banks. And I think we have got full right to ask these questions
Definitely.
and
Definitely.
analyze
No, no,
ourselves.
yeah, definitely. And I'll ask the next question from you itself, about it. But before that, it's time for us to take the name of our next sponsor, which is Community Forum Limited, platform for all the creatives and rising star. If you can see that we are also running on our screen. So thank you so much for today's sponsor, Sea Gold Solution and Community Forum Limited. Now, moving on, Salishwar, I wanted to ask one question. See, you are seeing all these things are happening, and without taking any government name. So, do you think that there is something fishy or something dodgy happening between government and the bank, or somebody's back pocket is getting filled?
I will tell you very one thing, that we are too much dependent, and that
Mm-hmm.
is not just we as a country, but
Mm-hmm.
most of the countries and almost every country, I would say, are
Mm-hmm.
dependent on the US international monetary policy, and we are not raising anything against them or going against them. Any government has not got that far to actually put the foot down and say, no, look, our country's monetary policy, we have to create our own, and we will do it because our dynamics are different, our borrowings and lendings and businesses are different, and the
Mm-hmm.
requirements are different. You can't put your policy, ask us to force to New Zealand. New Zealand has got a different dynamic. So I think what I am seeing, that the government of the day
Mm-hmm.
has got the power, has
Mm-hmm.
got the ability, has
Right.
got to change policies and resolutions and regulations in conjunction with every single political party, irrespective whoever is the government of the day. When
Mm-hmm.
they create a policy for the benefit of the people, they
Mm-hmm.
come together. Just like when they came together for during COVID, that
Right.
yes, we want a tracing app. That's a good thing for everyone. Let's put
Mm-hmm.
it. But there was a buy-in from all political parties. Even though the government of the day was different, there has to
Mm-hmm.
be buy-in from everyone. Just like the gun laws, there was a buy-in from everyone. Just like the
Mm-hmm.
smoke-free country, we want to make country smoke-free. Let's all political party come together and let's make a policy, and everybody agreed to it, right? Same thing happens with the financial thing also, with the financial market as well. Let's
Right.
come together and solve the problem of New Zealand. Why do
Mm-hmm.
we have to feed? Why do we have to feed the overseas bank? And why do we have to follow the policy of the International Monetary Fund? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we understand we are in the global player, so we have to
Mm-hmm.
follow. But why do we have to follow every single aspect? Question
Mm.
is that you can always
Right.
make a tweak, tailor made for yourself. Just like when
Right.
you make a free trade agreement, you see
Mm-hmm.
what are the benefits to your country, and you put that as a proposed in the
Mm-hmm.
agreement, and
Mm-hmm.
other country puts it, and then we agree to disagree and disagree to agree, and then there is an agreement made, FTA is made.
Right.
So
Right.
it's not that 100% benefiting you or 100% benefiting other country. It's a give and take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
this is where I feel the financial market and the financial policy
Mm-hmm.
also should be based on that same principle, rather than making the rich richer, poor poorer, and the gap of inequality is created because of this. Just imagine, Ravi, I'm giving you a very classic, simple example of you create assets, and then you don't have cash, but you create assets. Now when you create assets, the banks lend you more money because you already have assets, so they keep giving you. But the ones who don't have anything, they don't give you anything. So what I'm saying here, the gap of inequality keeps on increasing, because there is no accommodation for the normal people, right? And so that becomes a little bit reality, that when would you solve this kind of tug of war that is going on between the haves and the have nots, or the inequality keeps on increasing, right? And this is something that it's not really ideal situation for our country. I think it's high time we are much better than every other country to create that beautiful relationship between the everyone, rather than only the corporates or the few who own a lot of portfolio. That's what I feel. So I can't hear you. You're on mute, Ravi. You're on mute.
Okay. Thank you so much for. So I'm saying with that, I want to play one video.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, which will add up to the discussion which we are doing, and let's see, if that gives some information.
Bye.
Please let me know if you can hear the voice.
Of New Zealanders.
Yeah, I
Mr.
can.
Speaker, 2 years ago today, Christopher Luxon stood in front of New Zealanders and he made a promise. His promise was that he was going to lower the cost of living and fix the economy. 2 years on, it is abundantly clear he has failed to do both of those things. The government made big promises. What have we seen? Increasing unemployment, an economy that's shrinking, more kids living in poverty, more people homeless living on the streets, $3 billion less spending on building stuff in the last year compared to when they became the government. Our health system descends further into crisis under their leadership, and yet the Minister of Health, who just gave a speech, was only 15 seconds into a speech before he started talking about the Labour Party. It shows, Mr. Speaker, they have no plan.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yes.
this is something absolutely what I think the government of the day, whoever it is, needs to be really take the responsibility of what the direction of the country is going. It's not about your policy is better than my policy. It's
Mhm.
about, is your policy really works for the 90% or 100% people, or is
Right.
it only working for 10%, 2%? And this is something that I think I would urge to every political party to be mindful about this kind of scenario, where
Mhm.
ultimately this term, next term, they keep changing. It's not about that. It's about the policy that is you are creating should help irrespective whether you are there or not. And
Right.
that's the important message that everybody needs to be mindful of, I personally feel.
Mm.
So when you talk about health, when you talk about this, but we are concentrating more on the finance aspect. And I think what the finance aspect does is, if you don't have money, you don't spend, and if you don't spend, the economy doesn't move. And when the economy doesn't move, your GDP doesn't increases, your GDP remains there, and your
Right.
debt ratio doesn't get reduced. And so these are all domino effects
Mm.
of giving you money to spend, and not wasteful as previously. During COVID, I remember during COVID, money was spent because there was no income. So money had to be borrowed and given to the people to
Mm.
survive, to sustain, and not only that, to have their mental well-being intact. Otherwise, we all would have been really crazy. However, then there was an argument that it was too much given. Now, too much and too little is $1 million question.
Right.
I always say that, if you don't do anything, then you get blamed. If you do too little, you get blamed. If you overdo, you get blamed. So it's a balancing act.
Mm.
Whether you do nothing, or whether you do too much, or whether you do too little, you know,
Mm.
it's all the time you're going to get the blame, irrespective whoever the government is. But the thing is, what I am highlighting here is, how do you balance? Because you are
Mm.
in the power, you
Right.
can balance it. You can make sure that every single Kiwis get the benefit of it, rather than only few Kiwis getting the benefit of it, whatever your policies are, basically. So when it comes to these, that's why I said that at the start, like, when these government of the day knows the fact that monetary policy has to be effective for all Kiwis, and not for only those Kiwis who already have enough property, who already have enough capital, who already have enough assets. We need to pass on that to the people who have less assets, less
Mhm.
less. And this is again a measure. So I
Mm.
always say that, have you done enough measurement of, whenever you put any policy, have you put enough measurement and research and analyze and data that you have, that how that policy will be benefited to the maximum people? And I think
Mm.
this is where every single Kiwi should ask this question: why I am not included when I am facing this problem? Have I been included in your research that there are people like me who are suffering, or who are not getting the benefits, or who are not been considered? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why you make a policy and it's only suited to few people, then you always will have this problem. But if you make a policy and you not but few, only few people are left out, then it
Mm-hmm.
is understandable that 90% are getting the benefit, right? Just like we saw an example of the vaccines when New Zealand wanted 100% to be vaccinated, but only
Mm-hmm.
95 or 97% vaccine. So that was still a good outcome because only 2-3% was left. My point is
Right.
that I'm just trying to compare and give you this analysis because what we are I'm saying is it should benefit to the 100% or maximum person of the people of the country
Mm-hmm.
rather than only few people of the country. So financial decisions are really really important for any country because
Mm-hmm.
they do impact and they do effect, and it's a long term effect. It's not just short
Mm-hmm.
term, it's a long
Right.
term effect which you don't want in a country where you have got all these amazing access to many
Mm-hmm.
things which many countries don't have. So when you have these kind of tools and access, then you need to make sure that you utilize them, you manage them, you monitor them, you measure them, so that you are in a better position to make the maximum, give the maximum benefit to the people. That's what I
Mm-hmm.
would say, Ravi. you know um,
No, no, that makes sense, a lot. But I'm just trying to make some more point, and it
mhm.
might be helpful for you.
Sure.
So here's the another point which I saw recently, and I think we did discuss about it.
Hmm.
And let me share the screen quickly if I can, since I've opened so many. Okay. So while I'm doing that, I wanted to point out recently you must have also read in the news about this foreign buyers ban soften.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have to
Yes.
say? I mean, do you think what kind of issue this is going to create?
Oh, 100%. This is something that, see, you are talking this point very, I at a point where do we
Hmm.
have that much level of investors in our
Right.
country? Okay.
Uh-huh.
We are talking
Right.
at a point where we are suffering from many, many
Hmm.
things like the cost of living, the inflation, the
Hmm.
bank rates. When we are talking all of these are all challenges that we are having.
Right.
And when you have these kind of challenges, foreign buyers is banning the foreign buyers, but this
Hmm.
is this is just ban for foreign buyers to buy something in New Zealand because I think
Hmm.
the current government is
Hmm.
putting a policy where they are saying that foreign buyers, we will relax or we will be a little flexible for foreign
Right.
buyers that they can come into our country and they can buy, but there is a lot of criterias are there, lot of
Mm-hmm.
thresholds are there, how up to what level, but they will be taxed. The beauty is they will be taxed. Now this
Mm-hmm.
has never happened in the history of New Zealand, Ravi,
Mm.
that a foreign buyer comes. Even previously, the foreign buyers were allowed, but they were not taxed.
Mm.
And that's why there was a huge problem created because there was no tax, and people
Right.
started buying from any part of the world and gain the control of New Zealand land. And that's where the problem happened when Jacinda said that,
Yeah.
we will become renters in our own land if we keep doing that. So this she
Mm-hmm.
put a ban on the foreign buyers at that time. Now we are back to that foreign buyer concept, but
Mm-hmm.
with a view that we don't want them to come and do freely, but we want them to contribute to our that investment, which is fair. But
Mm.
but is it really going to make a difference? That's a question we're going to discuss today. Is it really
Mm.
going to benefit the New Zealanders overall? Or is it just another way of saying to overseas people that,
Right.
hey, if you are ready to pay 30% tax, you come
Mm-hmm.
and buy. We are
Right.
making it flexible for you. And there are many investors who wants to invest irrespective of whether they gain from that investment or not.
Mm.
That's not the criteria. There are two ways of investment. One, people invest to gain something out of it on a regular or a passive income base, and one, they invest to make a capital gain. because they
Right.
said that when the recession happens or when the problem happens, at that time I will have created a good gain from that land or from that property. The two ways of investment, right? Now the question is, when you make such policies, it has to be an immediate benefit to the people. If
Mm.
you don't have an immediate benefit to the people, which at this moment the immediate benefit what I see is the 30% tax rate when they buy, and
Mm.
that 30%, where are they going to utilize is a question.
Right.
Another, and but also, how much of that 30%, how much of those investments are really going to come in one
Mm.
year, in 6 months, that will make a difference to the people. That's another question. So this
Mm.
is, we are just hoping that we will earn x amount of investment. With x amounts of overseas investment we will earn x amount. It's a hope, it's
Right.
not guaranteed. And when there is no guarantee, it is just a hope for the
Mm.
kids. And I think we are in that dangerous situation. We don't want hope today. What we want is to solve the issues of problems of monetary issues that we want to solve today, not after 1 year, not after 2 years. So that's the thing. Now, to counter that, I think labor is coming up with the capital gain tax. Okay. Now, I personally feel, in my view, capital gain tax versus the overseas investment tax. Now, the current government doesn't want the local people to be taxed by
Mm-hmm.
bringing capital gain tax. They want only overseas people who invest to be taxed. So
Right.
their policy is more catering towards the outer, but there is no guarantee. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas labor is coming up and saying there is a guaranteed tax
Mm-hmm.
that we will earn from a capital gain tax. And that
Right.
capital gain tax, again, there are criteria that homeowners will not be taxed. Only the second investment or more than two property investment properties will be taxed if they sell. That also,
Mm.
if sell, that also if they realize an income out of that. And that is equivalent to the income tax rate, which is 28%, which at the moment individuals are paying 28% tax rate. So based on that, again, it is a hope. How much
Mm.
are we going to be selling? How many Kiwis will sell their property investment and earn and have to pay 28%? And again, that 20% will be how much X amount, nobody knows. Again, it's a hope. You see,
Right.
the hope that we will create wealth out of it. It's a hope that that wealth will be passed on to the Kiwis. So, so the Labour government is saying that it will pass on to the Kiwis for the health. Now,
Mm.
again, that's another ambiguous $1 million question. Health for GP visits. Now, do we really need GP visits as help, or do we need to do a little bit of research? What more can we do for the health of the country? Basically, I would say that, when the current government said that we want to fund more extra 12 drugs that are not funded by the government currently, but Australia is funding those cancer drugs, we want to fund that. Now that would make sense if you include those here with the
Mm.
capital gain tax or with the overseas buyer tax, whatever tax that we earn out of overseas tax or out of local tax. If these policies are like extended for health, then I can understand. But if you are
Right.
having, but if you are giving the basic service of GP visits, I
Mm-hmm.
think we understand the GP visits at the moment is costing everyone, but then that
Right.
is the basic rule of the Health Act that we have to anyway provide for the GP visits they already get. What
Mm.
people need is the money when their life is at threat, when they
Mm.
don't have access to the life threatening drugs. If the life
Right.
threatening drugs are not funded, that's where we will make a difference if we really want to make a difference in the health sector. This is
Mm.
my take on it. And capital gain tax versus overseas buyers tax is
Mm-hmm.
a concept that first time they want to create something wealth rather than going by the tradition way and the status quo. So they are taking some efforts to create
Mm.
this issue. again, I would say, Ravi, that they don't want the property tax or the wealth tax, because most of the people who are very few people, they own
Mhm.
lot of land, they own lot of property, and their lobby is not to have tax. They don't want to
Mhm.
be taxed. They want to be in the same situation where they have been for thousands of years. They have been in that situation. So so there is no question of letting them tax. They don't want to be taxed, simple as that. But someday, somewhere, I say personally that if you want to copy a policy or mirror a policy of other countries, like Australia
Mhm.
normally mirror,
Mhm.
we still haven't given mirror one basic fundamental policy of Australia has got a threshold of tax where up to 18-20,000 you don't get taxed, whereas
Mhm.
New Zealand has got no threshold. Every single dollar is taxed. Now if you earn money from capital gain tax or buyer's tax, why can't you give that tax rebate to everyone?
Right.
Up to 20,000, because here there are low income earners. So if
Mm.
I earn 50,000 a year, and if 20,000 is not taxed, just
Mm.
imagine I am getting some benefit out of it where I have got extra money to spend, and I don't have
Right.
to depend on government for every
Mm.
single thing. This is what I feel. If you want to create wealth, also create benefit to the individuals and to the business community as well. You
Mm.
want to mirror business tax, 28% is business tax at the moment, and then you
Mhm.
want to say that okay, we will align the same tax as capital
Mhm.
gain tax. you know to me it doesn't make sense. Capital gain tax, why do you want to mirror is as a business is like variable. Capital
Right.
gain tax is fixed. How can you compare apples with apples? This is not apples with apples. So I think there is a misunderstanding, and not many people understand, Ravi, that are they just taxing by showing that we are going to tax it? But
Mhm.
in business, you have got opportunities to save taxes because of the policies and because of the lot of loopholes, or not loopholes, lot of policies that are given to benefit the taxpayer. Whereas
Mhm.
in capital gain tax, there is no benefit. You just sell a fixed
Mhm.
price and you get tax a fixed price. In business, you may earn 100,000, but after showing expenses, you are earning only 20,000. So,
Mhm.
this is the two difference, basic fundamental difference. You can't mirror anything. But I personally feel that New Zealand is high time, rather than creating capital gain tax and just ban tax. Also, at the same time, you should create tax rebate or tax benefit for a threshold that up to 20,000, up to 25,000, no tax. Then our individual development and business people will, even if you give business people a rebate that first
Mhm.
20,000, you won't be taxed. You earn, you make start business. Look, many people will start business because they know that up to 20,000 I'm not going to get taxed. So it's good to start a new business. And when you earn after a year
Mhm.
or after 6 months or after 2 years, that time you will be taxed. That's fine, because at least initially you will get to set up, and that is the innovative and creative of creating more businesses. At the
That's
moment,
right.
businesses are going down. Nobody is thinking about how to increase and the confidence of the business community.
Mm.
Nobody's boosting the business people to say that, hey, start business. We will
Yeah.
give you these benefits. We will give you startup fund. We will give you creative fund.
Mm.
There's nothing of that sort. So I feel that if you are creating capital gain tax and if you are creating buyer tax, foreign buyer tax,
Mhm.
please create a benefit to the business community. Please create benefits of to the individual's threshold, that no tax up to this amount, and then say that okay, up to these businesses, increase your business, we will give you a boost up. Rather than giving just loans to businesses, you can also have a grants depending on the nature of the business that you are getting in. For example, I
Mm.
personally feel that Ravi, you are doing this media, we are doing this media. I mean, this is what are we doing here? We are trying to give the best of information and the real information and the real facts. Okay.
All right.
Isn't it supposed to be boosted and motivated to keep doing this for everyone, so that everyone is well informed and they can have a well informed decision? And I always say, well informed decision is the best decision rather
Mm.
than half hearted decision or half knowledge. Half
Right,
knowledge
right.
will be dangerous, basically.
Mm.
So, but if you
True.
have full knowledge, then you can make some sort of difference, right? So, I think this is where the country needs to head on, and the
Mm.
government needs to think very strongly about how they can increase business community, how they can increase businesses, how they can give the threshold to
Mm.
every single taxpayer. Every single player in New Zealand is a taxpayer, right? And so, because there is no threshold for them, they pay.
Yes, Shailesh sir, sorry, I'm interrupting you here, but I have an argument on this. This foreign buyer lift ban soften,
Mhm.
has created. You are saying that a lot of hazard, but if we look back, since the foreign buyer ban was introduced in 2018, if you remember,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And then, but if you if you remember clearly that the ban did not fix affordability. Data
no,
shows that clearly, right? The house
yeah,
prices in New Zealand still surged dramatically, during the 2020 and 2021, right? And
absolutely, yeah,
also, foreign buyers were always a small share of the market, not a very big
100%,
number, right?
100%, yeah.
Even before the ban,
Mm.
overseas buyers made a very low single digit percentage of total transaction, right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
if you look at the capital which you were talking about, see, capital is not enemy, uncontrolled capital is, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, right, right. And then new builds benefit from the foreign investment, allow foreign investor to into a new development only, that kind of rules can head, and then which will improve the project feasibility, help developers secure financing, increase the housing supply. So I see there are some benefits. However, the risk which you mentioned, that if they start coming and they start queuing in the GP line, then what will happen to us, who are already living in the country, right?
Not only that, the idea at that time in 2018, the idea of Jacinda was not to just ban because there is an inflow, and that
Mm,
the idea was not to give the control to the land overseas who are not citizens of New Zealand. Because what happens then is
mm-hmm,
you are creating uh, ownership of overseas who are not
mm,
citizen, but they are getting the benefit to dictate to the local people that to
right.
use or not to use my property, and to use or not to use for this aspect, that aspect. That control goes away, and when
Mm,
that
mm,
control goes away from the local people,
mm-hmm,
that's where you become renters in your own land. And she
right.
didn't wanted that. So that was the basic fundamental concept of her.
Mm,
Before
mm,
that, yes, there was a free trade. I'll give you, it started from 2008, when there's a Labour government did, Helen Clark did the free trade agreement under her leadership with China. The
mm,
idea at that time was asking Chinese people or asking Chinese government to come here
mm,
and invest and build and create employment. but
right.
but when it was implemented by national government, which was John Key's
Mm,
government,
mm,
they tweaked it, probably,
mm,
that it was allowed for them to come and not to build, but just
mm,
they can do buy and sell as well. So what
right.
we ended up seeing is buying and selling of the properties rather than building the properties. That's why
Mm,
they did not build any houses, or very few houses were built during that time. And that put the pressure on the immigration when the net flow was shot up to 60, 70,000 in
right.
2014, 2015. We didn't have the infrastructure because there was no build. We
Mm-hmm,
had only the buying and selling, which was speculation. We
mm,
had the manipulation of the buying, selling. And that's where the whole problem started, in my view, that literally led to us where we are today. We are still trying to find that balance, that,
mm,
what
mm,
do we want investors from overseas to
right.
invest? So, like we have back in other countries also, they allow non-residents to come and invest, uh,
mm,
which is fine. But invest and not control, but just to invest and make profit, but not
mm,
control. And
right.
this is where the whole difference is. The two aspects: do we want to get their money and bring them, or do
Mm,
you want to give them your control in exchange of money? So what are we into? What type of policy do we want to create? Do we
right.
want to create a policy asking them to come here and invest in the country, but
Mm-hmm,
then give them the, in exchange, give them the control? Or
mm,
do you want to say that no, you only invest, you take profits, and you don't control
mm,
our land? You can earn money from our land, but don't
right.
control our land. And that's where the situation is, Ravi. These are the
Mm,
two critical aspects, that when you allow someone to invest,
mm-hmm,
and this is where what happened, what was witnessed, agricultural land or tourism land was also taken over by overseas,
mm,
where they are not citizens. So just
correct.
imagine somebody coming to you and telling you you have to pay $10 to visit a park, because that park is now owned by
Mm,
overseas sitting there, and he
mm,
is not a citizen, but he is controls and he dictates how much
right.
you should pay to visit his park. But
Mm,
that park is like, that park is not yours, right?
right.
That
Right.
park is New Zealand government's park. Does that make
Mm.
sense?
No, no, totally, totally. I get it. So what I'm trying to understand here is, see, there is some benefit, but at the same time, there, if we do not control it, there might be, a
Hmm.
good, very big chaos about it, and that can create a lot of problem for the people like us. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I mean, see, discussion is really good, and we can keep on talking about it. But if you ask me to summarize what I we started
Yeah.
the discussion, the
Hmm.
OCR is really, I feel, is a policy tool, not a
Hmm.
price setting formula.
No.
Banks set mortgage rates based on wholesale funding cost, I believe, and
Mhm, mhm,
expectations of future rates, which
mhm,
which they, think that it can come, and then their own margin. Now,
mhm.
market already priced in their earlier expectation cuts, and now many participants think that the OCR is finished in this cycle.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
what I see, end of the day, like you yourself mentioned that people doesn't have money, so
yeah.
all this noise about having a mortgage rate less or more, if
Mm,
people have money in their pocket, I think these noises will reduce, even
mm.
though it makes a lot of
Correct,
valid point. But I think
correct.
again we are going back to the origin of the problem. Either people have taken a mortgage when the interest rate was really less and people
Yeah.
had the job. Now people have also lost the job and it's really difficult, or they have cut down the earning, which is
Mhm.
why all this situation is becoming really challenging
Absolutely.
for. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
You mentioned rightly, these are tools. OCR is a
Mm,
tool, but
right.
all the people needs to understand this may be
Mm,
tools for the bank, for the reserve bank, for the government, for the parliament, for everyone to understand, for the finance people to understand. It's an OCR.
right.
Don't forget, this
Mm,
tool affects and moves people's lifestyle.
mm,
These affects and moves people's lifestyle, even though it's a tool. So
right.
when it's a has to be a very responsible tool to make
Mm,
sure that your lifestyle is not compromised because of that. See, the more you want more to spend and you
mm,
want more to earn, that is one of the greatest rock star economy, or whatever we call it, when say that it's a great economy, is
totally.
because you can earn also and you can spend also, then the money is there. Holding is a
Mm,
big dangerous area, Ravi.
right.
When I have money and when I want to hold and not spend, because I don't know my future, because I don't know how the OCR is going to move, is a
Right.
very dangerous situation. And I
Mm,
need everyone to understand, from my point of view, that
mm,
even though it's a tool, it's a dangerous tool for you to not spend or to spend.
mm,
And holding is not the ideal situation for anyone, because holding means you are compromising your lifestyle. Holding
Right.
means holding means you are not living your life. You are
Mm.
just earning for the bank. You are
Mm.
just earning to feed to the bank. You are not enjoying life. And that's not what New Zealand is all about. New
Right.
Zealand is all about, good. What are good citizens, or what is good policies that New Zealand? Everybody wants to come to New Zealand. Why? Because it's the most easy, flexible, and no pressure, no
Mm.
stress,
Right.
financial or any stress. Does
Any
that make
stress?
sense?
No,
That's
no,
what I
totally.
would say in that
Mm-hmm.
regard. OCR,
Right.
you are rightly said, it's a tool, but then that tool actually moves and
Mm.
impacts and affects every single person in
Yeah, yeah.
this country,
Right.
right?
No, no. Thank you so much for that. Now, if you want to summarize, what do you
Mm,
see? What do you see that from your experience,
yeah,
without targeting any particular government? What do you
yeah,
see that 2016 and the viewers who are listening, what they should expect from government and from the bank side?
yeah. 2026 is a very
Mm.
interesting going to be a year, because one, it's very very election year, and Ravi, I really would insist that we should be doing a lot of topics up to the leading time, up to the election time, because not many
Mm.
people know. And what we can do is maximum information give on every aspect before
Right.
they go for elections, or before they elect anyone or any
Mm-hmm.
government. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't have information, you don't know what's really we are getting into. But yeah, to your question,
Mm-hmm.
2026 we can definitely expect, as we have seen this time. This was a big shock for many people, that the interest
Mm-hmm.
rate did not uh, changed into the real sense of changing the reduction in the bank rates. We saw
Right.
that. In February, there is another cut the bank has predicted, and they are
Uh-huh.
also predicting that the inflation will go down to 2% from 2.25, which will give them more authority and power. They think they will be
Mm-hmm.
in a better seat to dictate. But then again, that $1 million question, in
Mm.
February, when the rate is cut down, yes, it will cut down. But because the rates have not cut down now in November, so
Mm.
are we going to see the same rate, which is now, say, if it is 2 to 5%, if the rate is going to be 5% around, or 4.9 or 4.69, then are
Mm.
we going to see in February the same continuation, or are we going to see a slight more increase than what it is increased now? It has
Mm.
increased now by zero point 0.3. Now,
Right.
if that also increases, that means we are not expecting any lower rate. So I think, again, the people will be in a dilemma and a confused state, whether they
Mm.
should fix or they should not fix now.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever they have got available now, they should go for it, or they should wait for February. Is it going to be worth waiting in February, just like it wasn't worth waiting until November from September?
Right.
It
Mm-hmm.
was not worth. So I don't think in February also that will be more, or even if it is reducing, it's not going to reduce to the larger extent the
Mm.
way they are expecting. 0.25 or 0.10 is all what they are going to get, basically. So again, it's something that the only difference will happen in February or the next year, mid of next year,
Mm-hmm.
probably, is many people will be moving from their mortgage rate to the new rate, where they
Right.
may be at the moment at a higher rate, but then they will get a little better. So that will be a little breathing space for those people. But
Mm.
normally, for people who are already changed their rates now, it's not going to make any difference to them much in the next year. And I think 2026 will be, from the banking sector point of view, is going to
Mm-hmm.
be very very challenging. But again, it's an election year, and you never know. As
Right.
always, every political party gives you a little bit of sweetener
Mm-hmm.
before the elections, to say that, hey, look, we have brought down the cost of living, we have brought down the inflation, we have brought down the interest rates. Now we are going to give you this, some tax
Mm.
rebates, some this, so vote for us. This is going to is very normal, happens basically. Again, it's misleading, deceiving. That's the information that people should be aware of, that
Mm-hmm.
have I been misleading, misled now, or have I been once again fooled, or am I just going to be expecting the same? When they
mm,
say, or when anyone says that change for the better, it's a
mm.
very nice to say and nice to hear change for the better. What is better as people needs to understand for themselves,
Right.
because they can't just go by the slogan of any political party that we
Right.
are changing or we are changing for the better. And this
Mm-hmm.
is where they get misled, this is where they get misunderstood, and this is what the confusion creates for themselves. And then they elect or re-elect the same status quo, and then they fall into the same 3-year trap. I would
Mm.
say it's a trap, basically. So 2026 is going to be very challenging, very interesting, but I think 2025 we have seen a lot of businesses close down, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
liquidation, and lot of issues with the businesses. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that will continue in 2026 as well, because I haven't seen so far for anything happening to the business communities
Mm-hmm.
where, as I was telling you, have they announced a tax threshold for them? If there is
Mm-hmm.
a tax threshold, there will be a good change of events for business community. Have they given
Right.
any startup funding? Have they given any more boosting for investing? See, recently there was an investment boost policy of businesses was announced by the current
Right.
government.
Mm-hmm.
Now I had challenged that, because investment boost policy is only when there is a money to invest. When you don't have money to invest,
Mm-hmm.
where are you gonna? You are just saying that after a couple of years the outcome will be there, but I need now the money. I don't
Mm.
need the money after a couple of years to see the result. I
Mm.
need the result now. This is what people have to understand, that what result do you need now or after 2
Mm.
years. So investment boost policy did not really gel with me for the simple reason: one, I don't have money to invest; second,
Mm.
the investment that I am making to buy any machinery is not manufactured in New Zealand, which means I am paying 100% to overseas, and then to get 20% of that I am paying
Mm.
100% overseas. So I'm not even increasing my local business community a growth of local
Right.
business is not there. It's overseas
Mm-hmm.
business are growing, not local. So again, to me, I need now to see the benefit, not after 1 year, not after 2 years. So I think we need to see a lot of things happening to the business community. I want to see, and I also
Mm.
want to see more unemployment which is not been handled tackled because of the creation. Like if you are creating capital gains tax, just imagine, Ravi, you are saying I want to create capital gain tax, I want to create foreign ban tax. Are they going to create employment from that? That's another
Mm.
question.
Right.
Okay, you are allowing that, but then what are you creating for employment? Are you
Mm.
creating any employment opportunities? Are you creating any training and giving any training for government and these? We are just slashing the jobs everywhere. That's what we have seen. But have you created any employment? That's what I like to see in the next year or in the coming year. And I think that we can see probably through the elections, since elections are coming up. I might see some of those policies. We
Mm-hmm.
don't we don't know, but I would like to see personally unemployment to be tackled by creating more employment opportunities. I want to
Mm.
see that local business communities are given tax benefits. As
Mm-hmm.
a small business entrepreneur, I want to see they have been looked after, and also as investment of overseas investment, they
Mm-hmm.
need to be taxed, and that tax utilization of those collections and creation of wealth should be utilized towards our health, because our health at the moment is absolutely deteriorating. I mean, look at the wait listing. Okay, look at the GP's access. We are not
Right.
getting, we are not getting so, and we are not doing anything much on that front. So,
Mm.
are we going to continue in the hardship of Kiwis, that we are supposed to be saying that we have got the best of access? Yes, we have got best of access from other point of view, but we also at the same time now having a bigger pressure, because
Mm-hmm.
we are into that same situation of other countries where you don't have GP access, where you don't have the drugs access. Drugs are not funded. The
Hmm.
GPs, the GPs are not being accessed as easily as it used to be. So all of these things, I think, we probably need a lot of different topics, and topic one by topic we can take it
Yeah, yeah,
today.
we'll come back. Thank you so much for today's. And before
Today's
we wind
finance.
up our discussion, we should not forget our sponsor. So the first sponsor is Sea Gold Solution Limited, like I mentioned, business advisory and tax accounting consultancy. And our next sponsor is Outera Academy, charitable trust, kids learning and development platform. And our another sponsor is community forum limited, platform for all creating creatives and rising stars. And finally, thank you to NZ World News, for collaborating with Wefit News. So that's how we are able to bring this discussion, where we are. So yes, we promise to the audience we will come back again with very another interesting topic, and we will also look at the entertainment part. We will also try to bring some movies reviews or trailer reviews, and we'll continue this collaboration.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ravi, for
Thank
this
you, Shailesh.
beautiful conversation and great insights. We look forward to our more and more episodes like that, where we can inform our viewers and our nation that this is what is real news is all about. This is what the real information should be. And
Yes.
we also encourage you guys to come and actually talk to us or give us your feedback, give us your comments, and webfit will always cater for those things, and we will cater for those topics as well. So thank you, Ravi.
Thank you so much, Shailesh sir. And thank you, audience, for giving us a company. Have a great evening. See you in the next episode. Good night.
Good night.